Welcome to Generally Nerdy. I am Generally Nerdy, and this is my channel. We are talking the week in Nerdom. So I was going to talk about the Oscars. I don't know. I think I'll write it up instead and just focus on other nerdy things for the episode. So, yeah, very little Oscar talk. I'll probably touch on it to start and then we'll move on. But first, generallynerdy.net. That is the website. You can find the Facebook on there, /generallynerdy. You can find the Twitter on there, @generally_nerdy. You can find the Instagram on there, @generallynerdy, all one word. Or you can just find some really interesting things that I write about. Generallynerdy.net is where you want to go. I appreciate you watching and or listening. Good listener / viewer. I appreciate any likes and shares and retweets that you may or may not do. And I appreciate the most when you join the conversation. So leave comments. Let's talk about things. And cue the music.
Generally Nerdy.
Alright, so for this week in Nerdy. Alright, so all of Nerddom does not watch the Oscars. I feel like a fair chunk of Nerddom does watch the Oscars, which is why I was going to do a little more in-depth, which I'm still going to do. It'll probably be a written piece instead of a video piece. But, I mean, I did watch the Oscars. It is a little ridiculous. I mean, so, yes, I saw the stupidness that happened at the end, and everyone's acting like those two accountants are getting fired. No, they're not getting fired from their jobs. They're just not going to do the Oscars gig next year. That it's still the same accounting firm. It's just different accountants that are taking care of it. So, it's whatever. The ridiculous thing, A, is that Suicide Squad was up for a fucking Oscar at all, and B, that it won over Star Trek. I did not hate Suicide Squad. I didn't think it was the best superhero movie ever, but there are definitely a lot worse superhero movies that came out, especially worse superhero movies that came out last year. So, I'm not hating necessarily on Suicide Squad, but just because Killer Croc was practical makeup and not CGI does not mean that they did better work than freaking Star Trek. Star Trek did amazing things. Star Trek, every time, as far as makeup goes, every Star Trek movie does pretty incredible things with their makeup. I mean, I can't really speak for the Star Trek movies from like the 80s and such, but the last 3 Star Trek movies, the special effects, the practical effects even, because J.J. Abrams is huge on practical over digital, they're just incredible. They're really good, and it's kind of stupid that Suicide Squad won over Star Trek. There's a bunch of meme pictures going around. I'm sure you've seen them. Contrasting and comparing the practical makeup from Star Trek to the practical makeup of Suicide Squad, and it's pretty drastic. I mean, I understand that the Oscars are a political outlet for Hollywood, as are basically all the awards ceremonies from this time of year, but I don't understand what political statement they're making by awarding Suicide Squad instead of Star Trek. If anything, they should have awarded Star Trek because it's the more diverse cast. It's the more, I don't know. Moving on. So, all of you Buffy the Vampire Slayer fans out there, as of March 10th, so just a few short days after this will be posted, Buffy the Vampire Slayer will be 20 years old. And so Warner Brothers is officially announcing that March 10th is Buffy Day. So they're going to capitalize on some nostalgia. They've got some stuff lined up. I just thought it was funny that it's 20 freaking years old and that Warner Brothers is declaring a holiday of sorts. It amused me. But yeah, that's really cool though. 20 years old and still going pretty strong in the comic books. There's a lot of diehard Buffy fans. A lot of diehard Buffy fans. So, Buffy fans, there you go. You get your holiday. Also, in the nerd news, this episode is going to be very not. This episode is going to be very not movie heavy because the last episode was, and because I'm also going to be doing the Logan review today, so lots of other movie things going on. Oscar piece will be written shortly, so I have one movie snip of news, and that one piece of movie news is David Harbour, the sheriff from Stranger Things, has been approached to play Cable. So even though we don't have a release date, and I'm sure they don't have a script yet, at least not a 100% done script or director or whatever. Oh no, they do have a director. That was announced. I covered that in the last video actually. But yeah, they don't have a 100% script as far as I know. That if he plays Cable, he will be in Deadpool 2. He will also be in X-Force. Neither of which have a proper release date as far as I know. I know there's projected release dates, but nothing set in stone from my understanding. So that will be cool. He's a really good actor. I really, really dig him in Stranger Things. He's been in a handful of other things as well, so check him out, IMDb him. I don't think he'll do bad as Cable. I feel like his physicality isn't exactly right, but that's easily fixed. I mean, they made Chris Pratt into a superhero. Why can't they make David Harbour into a superhero? So, also, television. Saturday morning cartoons. Well, I guess it wasn't a... Well, maybe it was. I don't know. Sometimes I forget my childhood, and it makes me sad. No, DuckTales, the fabulous cartoon from your childhood. I'm pretty sure it was a daytime show on, like, broadcast television, not a cable show. But they're rebooting it, and there's a trailer, which you should watch, because DuckTales was awesome. Scrooge McDuck, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, you know, the whole gang. It's... I just... Part of me really digs this whole nostalgia kick that we're on as a culture. I mean, it's not really a kick. There's always something nostalgic happening, be it fashion going through cycles of, or reboot movies, or, you know, Nintendo re-releasing the NES. You know, there's always something going on that's nostalgic, but I feel like recently I mean, and the harbinger of this was kind of Stranger Things, kind of showed, hey, we are on such a nostalgia kick. We're trying to not only remake movies from the 80s and early 90s and such, we're trying to make movies that should have come out in the 80s and early 90s and such. So, like, that's what I mean when I say nostalgia kick. We are... Everything, I feel like, has some sort of throwback element. And there's a lot of reboots and there's a lot of stuff along those lines as well. So much so that I didn't expect the DuckTales reboot. It's kind of a strange thing that they're deciding to do, but if it works, it works. Again, not necessarily a thing that I think we need, but a cool thing that we're gonna get. So check out the trailer. It's gonna be great. I feel like you can't really mess with DuckTales because it's always fun. Okay, next, Denver Comic-Con 2017, still announcing guests. Salt Lake Fan Experience, the Fan X, if you will, is, I think, about a week out. I think it starts on the 17th. They have Weird Al Yankovic at Fan X, and I was really bummed that I couldn't make it to Fan X because it would be awesome to stalk Weird Al and try to get an interview with him. But unfortunately, could not make it out to Fan X. Not really on my radar as far as cons to go to, because I go to Salt Lake Comic-Con, so the proper Comic-Con, which they have 6 months from now in September. Approximately 6 months. I'm not doing math in my head right now. So Weird Al was at Fan X, is going to be at Fan X, I guess, because it hasn't happened yet. And I was bummed. And then yesterday, they announced that Weird Al's going to be at Denver Comic-Con. And I'm going to Denver Comic-Con. Got my hotel already and everything. So, got my submission in for media badges. Lord knows if that's actually going to happen, but fingers crossed. So yeah, Weird Al at Comic-Con, and you're going to love it, because Weird Al's kind of awesome. Even though he's getting a little old, he's still relevant. Like, he's more relevant than probably any of the people he's parodied in the last 20 years. So, kudos to you, Weird Al. Thank you for coming to Denver Comic-Con, assuming you make it out. And I look forward to trying to interview you. Moving on. Alright. So the rest of these are music related. First up, Shawn Crahan, Clown, as some people know him, from Slipknot, was interviewed by radio station Detroit, WRIF. WRIF radio in Detroit interviewed Shawn Crahan, which is weird that he would do it in Detroit and not in Des Moines, but whatever. He says that they already have a fair amount of material written for the next album. They're moving at a leisurely pace because Corey is doing his Stone Sour thing right now, but they have material written. Whether or not any of it's recorded yet was unclear in the interview, but he said that they just can't stand by, they can't be idle while Corey's doing his other thing. Some of them, he said, some of us can't just sit back and be lazy, because they had so much fun doing the Gray Chapter that they just wanted to keep that momentum going. And kudos to them, because Gray Chapter was a fantastic album. If you like heavy music, listen to the Gray Chapter if you have not already. If you have not already, I feel like you've been living under a rock for a while. Metallica is on tour right now with, Deftones and Avenged Sevenfold, so I still haven't listened to the new Metallica album. I just got it the other day and haven't popped it in. sorry. I mean, I dig Metallica. It's just, I don't know. I feel like they're grasping at relevancy. They're trying too hard. The little bit I have heard from the new album was kind of better than like Load, but definitely better than Saint Anger. Anyway, on tour, they're having some issues with bootleg t-shirts in Mexico. So just like, here's the thing about bootleg t-shirts. Sometimes it's very difficult to tell the difference between the actual tour shirt and the bootleg shirt. The key the key thing that should show it to you, though, that should tell you, hey, this is probably not a legitimate shirt, is the fact that it's some guy, some person, I guess, walking down the line as you're waiting to get into the venue. That's your absolute positive. This guy's just bootleg these shirts, and the band is not going to get any of this money. Now, do I really care if Metallica gets my $15-20 for the t-shirt? I mean, for Metallica, it's kind of whatever. Nothing you do is really going to affect their bottom line. They're gonna make millions. They're Metallica. It's what they do. That is by no means a negative thing. I am not one who buys into the sellout mentality. I'll probably end up doing a whole thing on what it means to be a sellout in the music business, because people think that popularity means that they've sold out, and I don't buy it. But yeah, so bootleg t-shirts, if you're buying from the dude outside and you're not buying from the official merchandise booth inside or from the website or whatever, then you got a like 99.9999% chance that that's not a legit shirt. Oftentimes you can tell because the quality is not very good. I, in my life, have ever only bought one bootleg shirt. I was fairly young at the time. I was like 17, 18, and didn't realize the difference. I just figured they were smart and they were sending out merchandisers to, hit up the line. And that was not the case. It's definitely a bootleg, and it's a Slipknot shirt, which makes me feel even more shitty about it. But so bootleg shirts are slightly cheaper. That is a legitimate thing. However, you're not, if you really, really enjoy that band, then effectively you should want to give them your money. You should want to support them so that they can continue doing what they do. If you really like the music, if you really whatever, then you should want to be a patron of some sort. And oftentimes that means buying merchandise from the band, not from the bootlegger, because the bootlegger's gonna pocket all that money. And you're getting, honestly, even the ones that look decent are still subpar on quality. So you're getting a better product that's going to last you, assuming, you wear your band shirts a lot. You're getting a better product that's going to last you a longer time, and you're going to be legitimately supporting the band. Just because you have their logo on your t-shirt does not mean you support them. It means you're advertising that you like them, but you're not giving them your support, which in this day and age, they're not making all that much money on the actual music. They make their money on tour through merchandise sales and ticket sales. So if you bought the album, fantastic, that's really good on you. However, they're not making that much money off of that album sale. Even if you bought it digitally, they're making slightly more if you bought it digitally than if you bought a physical copy of the album. But not that much more, and it's not that big of a profit. The bands who only sell music and don't go on tour all have day jobs. It's the sad fact of the matter. So you buying a bootleg is hurting this band that you claim to love so much more than it's helping. So keep that in mind the next time you're standing in line at a giant concert. Do I like this band enough to give them my money, or do I just want to announce to everybody that I'm a fan? Moving on. So, Billy Corgan. Oh, Billy Corgan. I like the Smashing Pumpkins. I am a early millennial, unfortunately. I identify more as a Gen Xer because I am within the first 2-3 years of the millennial generation. So I do not identify as a millennial. So, inasmuch, I am really big on music from the 90s, little bit from the 80s, but mostly 90s music, specifically like the metal scene that started popping up at the end of the 90s and the alt-rock / grunge scene that kind of started the 90s. Part of that being Smashing Pumpkins. And I dig Smashing Pumpkins. I think Billy Corgan is a very unique songwriter. I think that they've put out some incredible music over the years. That being said, I do not like Billy Corgan. He's always so pompous and so self-righteous. Like, it's incredible to me that he was as successful as he was because he's such a, I don't know, I guess crazy people make it in the music industry all the time, so it shouldn't surprise me that Corgan is as successful as he is. Anyway, so the reason we're talking about Smashing Pumpkins, Billy Corgan said on the Why Not Now podcast very recently, as reported by Pulse of the Radio on XM originally. So they're the ones that covered this. It broke on Why Not Now, and then Pulse of the Radio announced it to the world, because I've never heard of that podcast before, but I have heard of Pulse of the Radio. He said in an interview on Why Not Now podcast that when Pearl Jam and Nirvana started to outshine Smashing Pumpkins, he got suicidal. I guess that they were working on Siamese Dream. Gish had come out not long before Nirvana and Pearl Jam started hitting it big. Siamese Dream was the album that he was writing. Woke up one morning and said, either I'm going to slit my wrists or I'm going to write a song, and he wrote Today, I feel like was the song he claimed to have written at that time. And like, it just, seriously, Billy Corgan, seriously, dude, like Smashing Pumpkins in the 90s had a campaign to stop moshing. Granted, they're not exactly the heaviest band to mosh to. Like, I mean, some crowds will mosh to anything. I've definitely seen Incubus mosh pits, which is like, really? Incubus? Come on. So, like, that being what it is, they openly had a campaign that they would spout out on stage to end moshing, because it's become a corporate thing, because companies in the 90s saw the trend of aggressive music, or abrasive music might be a little more appropriate, and like any capitalist would, tried to use that to sell products. Which, I mean, that's a story for a different day. But Billy Corgan also, like, on Howard Stern was talking about the importance of alt-rock and alternative music. And, like, yes, I understand that you got put into that category of alternative rock and roll. That was, I mean, and it was so popular for a point that it was like, alternative to what? You are the fucking mainstream. So, like, he's just a deluded, self-obsessed narcissist, and anytime he comes out with something like this, it's like, dude, just make me some good music and stop crying. Like, he's the Jonathan Davis of the 90s. Like, Jonathan Davis made great music for a couple albums, and now he's a crybaby bedwetter, and Billy Corgan's always been a crybaby bedwetter in spite of the good music he made. So, I don't know. I saw that pop up, and I was like, I'm gonna waste 5 minutes on this, because Billy Corgan is such a tool that I need to talk about it. And so we did. Moving on. Looks like the last factoid I've got is Devil Driver. Again, very heavy music. So if you don't know who Devil Driver is, you probably aren't into the super heavy stuff. If you are into heavy stuff and you don't know who Devil Driver is, check him out. Des Fafrera, I know I'm not saying that right, from Coal Chamber back in the 90s and early 2000s. It's his other band, Devil Driver. Pretty great. I've seen him a few times actually, and yeah, very much worth a check if you are into heavy music and don't know who they are. They are working on a new album. It's going to be a covers album, which is an interesting thing. I've heard Dez cover Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and other things of that nature, which is funny. But it's going to be a cover album, but it's not going to be a traditional cover album. It's not like they're going to cover songs that inspired them from the 80s or old thrash tunes or anything like that. They're going to cover outlaw country tunes, which could be kind of awesome. I mean, Hank 3 is a thing, and that's kind of the genesis, you know, that's kind of why I think it's going to be really interesting, is because Hank 3 is pretty awesome. So they're going to do an outlaw country record, but like through the lens of a metal band. It's not like they're going to switch styles to do a cover album. And guest guitar is none other than the man himself, Mark Morton, from Lamb of God. If you don't know who Lamb of God is, then you don't listen to this podcast. Yeah, so very, very interesting. I can't wait to hear it. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the week in Nerdom. Thank you very much for listening. Please don't forget to check out the website, generallynerdy.net. Please like, subscribe, share, and retweet all the different things. And as always, remember, if it is generally nerdy, then it's probably here. And I'll see you lovely people again next week.